I have missed seeing everybody so much. I've missed being together in church, singing with Mr. Alex and Mr. Kevin, getting to hear wonderful lessons from our wonderful teachers. And I'm sad about that. And I know a lot of you guys are too. But I have a special surprise today, and I am so excited because I haven't seen their faces in so long. I think all of you know them and miss them, and they are here to teach us about God today and some of his name. So I'm going to turn it over to these two special people.
Hey friends, we miss y'all so much. Hi, Mr. Dana, I miss you too.
Yeah, I know.
You know, when this first started happening, it felt just like maybe we were on vacation or maybe one of us was sick and we had to miss a week or two and it wasn't so weird. But now it's getting weird, don't you think?
Yeah, it's starting to be a little strange, but it's, we're adapting to it and we're trying to have some fun with it. Notice that we're
That's right.
Socially distanced still, and we've got our sanitizer. So we're playing by the rules, as we know, are very important.
Yes. So today we're going to teach you a story about the Lord is my shepherd. And God has a lot of different names in Scripture. And one of his names is God is my shepherd. And so we're going to see how this story fits that name. So this story is from 1 Samuel. And y'all remember that 1 Samuel is a book from the Old Testament. And those stories were written before Jesus was born. So this is a story before he came. But these Old Testament stories still have hints about Jesus in there. So at the end of the story, we're going to see if we can find any hints of Jesus.
So one of the things that we learn are different characters. And so one of the main characters was a king. It was King Saul. Okay, and he had a pretty big family, and it's fun because I have 2 sons. Well, they had 8 sons. And one of the things about this story is many of you may know, I'm thinking about like John Paul's raising his hand. I already know the answer to, the story of David. But we've heard about that name, David. But this is about King Saul's army. And there's a big story behind that. But really, what we're going to focus on is the youngest. And he was named, like I said, David. And he had a job. And some of us now in modern life would maybe think of that like chores or responsibilities or things you have to do, but he was a shepherd, and he was really good at his job. The sheep recognized his voice, they followed him, they trusted him. I kind of see the image of, we have a dog at home. It's this, the dog really knows his owner, ready to eat, comes running, all those kinds of things. That's the same idea of how David took care of his sheep. He would find quiet streams where they could safely drink water, and when it was hot, he found cool and shady places. So he's taking care and finding places for his sheep to be safe, to be comforted, and to have all that they need.
Well, one of the things that David did too when his sheep were resting was he would play songs and write songs, and he would play them on this thing called a lyre. That's like a small little harp. And listen to one of the songs that he wrote. The Lord is my shepherd, and I have every single thing I need. He gives me rest in green pastures. He leads me to calm water, and he gives me strength. And David wrote a lot of songs, and most of them are in the Bible, in the book of Psalms. A lot of those Psalms that we read were actually songs that David wrote. And another thing that David did for his sheep was he kept them safe from wild animals like lions and bears. He had fences for them with fires inside so that wild animals couldn't come get them. In fact, one time, David saw a giant lion with a sheep in his mouth, and David ran over and pulled the sheep out of his mouth, and the lion tried to attack him, but David attacked him first and killed the lion so he could protect his sheep.
So God told the prophet Samuel to go to Bethlehem to see a man named Jesse. And I bet Samuel was excited because Jesse had those 8 sons. When Samuel got there, he invited Jesse and his sons to a feast. A feast is a huge, big dinner. Hopefully some of you have been able to enjoy at least that family time and everyone around the dinner table with plenty to eat. Before dinner, Jesse presented his sons. and he went through and talked about his oldest was handsome and strong and seemed like the most able person to do whatever needed to be done. And Samuel thought, this must be what God was talking about. This must be who God is thinking. But God said, no, that's not it. So he was looking at the heart and how someone may act. So Samuel saw all the other brothers that were at home, and each time God said no. So this is starting to get really confusing, and I think we've been through somewhat of confusing times. So we're like, what is God doing? Why is God not doing something that seems so obvious? Like, we've got these big, strong sons that can be warriors and go out, but finally Samuel asked Jesse, are all your sons here? Of course, David was not. He was out in the fields working very hard with his beloved sheep. As we talked about, he cared about them so much he wasn't even able to be at the big party, at the big dinner. So when Samuel heard that one son was not there, he told Jesse to send someone to go get him. And you can kind of guess, but as soon as David arrived, God said, this is the one.
So Dana, when you read that story, how do you see that God is my shepherd in that story?
Yeah.
That name.
I think one of the things that stands out to me is when you think about Jesus, and we talked a little bit about this on Easter, but Jesus being alive, and he is not just someone that did something and is no longer part of our life, but he is always trying to find ways to comfort us. He is there for us. And so very similar to that idea of what a shepherd would do. The shepherd has, let's say 100 sheep. He is not going to leave one of those sheep behind in the hot, blazing sun. He's going to find a shady spot for him. And so that story really makes me think about how, Jesus comforts us. He takes care of us. He always has enough for us. Just like any really good shepherd would do, which David was a very good shepherd.
One thing that stuck out to me too was the part that said that the sheep heard his voice and they followed his voice. And we don't hear sometimes a real voice from him, but we can hear his voice or feel his voice in our hearts, and we can read his voice in the Bible, because the whole Bible is his words for us. So if we think about Jesus, he gave us so many words, especially in the gospel, and we can hear his voice too when we read the Bible.
Well, that was quite the treat, and we'll have more lessons from Miss Julie and Mr. Dana. But I just wanted to take a moment to tell you guys, I know there's a lot of things going around and talk about coronavirus or the virus, and it can sound kind of scary. And I just want to tell you guys, it can be scary for grown-ups too. And you're not alone. Everything you're feeling, the grown-ups are feeling too. And so when we are scared, a lot of times what I do is I take those fears to God. And that is my encouragement to you guys, is when you're feeling scared, or even if you have a question, God is there for you. As we learned today, his name is the Good Shepherd. So he cares for us, he comforts us, and he's there for us. And I just want you guys to remember that name this week and the coming weeks, as we stay home and do all these things. When those times come that we question or we're scared, just remember that Jesus is the Good Shepherd and he will take care of us.